that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder hope gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Welcome to Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Finnell. I am George Harvey.
And here's a picture of both of us.
And that's Tom Finnell. And every day I get up early, and today was not.
He does get up early.
Today I got up at 4 o'clock so I could start work at 6 because the internet wasn't working and I had to find a place to. Usually I get up at 4 and start working. But I look for news for the day, and I find 10 or 15 news items, put them up on a blog called geoharvey.wordpress.com. And I collect the ones I like the best, and we talk about them at Energy Week. And Tom finds all kinds of interesting information, actually probably goes into the content of the stuff that I put up much deeper than I do.
You don't have the time in the week to go into it deeply. Some of these articles are in great depth.
Yeah,
I mean,
know.
some of them are really good articles.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
To your listeners here, why don't you give that blog number again so that...
Okay. It's geoharvey.wordpress.com, GeoHarvey.
Because some of the things we talk about are well worth delving into because there's a vast amount of information out there.
Huge amount of stuff. Anyway, I guess we should start talking. Our first item is from last Thursday, December 4th. It's from CNN. This year is on track to be one of the hottest, if not the hottest year on record. A UN agency reported Wednesday. The head of the World Meteorological Organization pointed out that provisional information for 2014 means that 14 of the 15 warmest years on record have all occurred in the 21st century, adding there is no standstill in global warming. And if it's actually true that 14 of the 15 warmest years on record have been in the 21st century, then every single year in the 21st century is on the list because
pretty close to it.
21st century starts with 2001.
Later on, we'll have a graph showing the average temperature of the Earth for the whole, more than a century, I guess. They're all nestled together, little slices.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're all skewed up on this end.
Absolutely. It's bad. And, you know, the global warming deniers and those people who are paid professionally to deny global warming.
And there are some.
There are some.
Matter of fact, I read an interesting article that some of the guys that are doing this are the same guys that the tobacco industry used 20 years ago.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Well,
they're all PhDs, you know. These guys have the credentials, but they're dishonest.
I wonder how many of them are actually meteorologists and climatologists, though.
Oh, probably not. They're probably I don't know.
I read an article some time ago in which they looked at the peer-reviewed publications that had articles referring to climate change, and you know the number 97% of the people who write on these things agree that it's a serious problem. It's caused by man, and the deniers say, well, that means 3% disagree.
Well, yeah.
No.
Okay, yeah.
3% have not expressed an opinion.
Okay.
and the one guy who did this study actually went to find the ones who had expressed an opinion saying it just ain't so. He found one person, and the one person said he was very happy to report that he had concluded that there was no man-made climate change, because if there was, it would be extremely bad for the Russian economy. I've mentioned that many times.
Well, it would be. It'd be bad for everybody's economy.
Well, it would be bad for the economies of the Russian government and Koch Industries and Exxon.
All of these guys, right.
Well, you know, I mean, let's put them all together. Let's put all the eggs, all the chickens that have exactly the same markings on them into the same roost.
Yeah.
Russia, Koch Industries, same thing.
Saudi Arabia.
Yeah. You know, you want a free market? Good.
Bingo.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have a free market. It'll be free enough for Koch Industries to take it over.
Let's take a look at this one that you, the first one you mentioned. This is one of those articles that is in depth, and you could get a lot by blogging onto it.
Yeah.
The article gives 11 ways climate change affects the world, and if you link on any one of those, there's a short movie, a short film on it. Okay, yeah. So I'll just give the list. Okay, there's really, well, there is 11 climate change ways. I'll just give the list, and every one of them has a little video attached to it if you want to go follow it. It's only about a 5-minute video, but it's interesting. So the first one is the Arctic. What's happening to the Arctic? And that's why the polar bear is there, because we have read that the polar bears are losing out because they can't swim far enough between ice flows this summer. Yeah. Something nobody ever anticipated. Yeah. The second one is drought, which is happening in our country, in California, except for the last couple of days.
When they get basically drenched.
We've seen some pictures of their reservoirs with people walking right across them, you know.
Yes.
So California, parts of California has been hard hit by drought. And as it's related to drought is wildfires, because there's wildfires happening in drought affected areas, among other places, but again, California. Another one that they've mentioned is the coral reefs. In parts of the world, the coral reefs are sustaining significant damage. Some people suspect they're gone in some cases.
Well, this
they
has
will
been going
not.
on for a while, too.
Yeah. Another one that we really don't notice, we kind of accept it, but it's food prices. Food prices have been going up.
Yep. Drought in California, you're going to have food prices go up. There's no question.
They're going up here.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of the lettuce.
I mean, I buy the same stuff week after week after week because I don't cook much, you know. So and every week, you know, I see differences.
But you go in the store and you buy lettuce, it's coming from California, like it's not.
Yeah. Pollen allergies. Now I may even be allergic to pollen. I don't know. I don't think it's a big thing in my life, but apparently more people are finding pollen allergies. Deforestation, both man-made because of food and because the climate's changing and the trees aren't growing as much as they used to. Mountain glaciers. Now, I was in Glacier Park, about 10 years ago. And I said, when are they going to change the name? There was not too many glaciers left. There was 5 active glaciers left when I was there. Of course, it was in the late summer. Now, I'm sure there was a lot more in the spring, but nevertheless, you know, these used to be year-round. Endangered species. We're seeing endangered species.
Yeah, the World Wildlife Fund says we could lose 50% of all species.
Yeah, we've talked about that. Related to that is animal migration.
Yeah.
And then related to that is extreme weather.
Yeah.
And everybody's seeing more extremes of weather.
Yeah.
Down south in New Orleans, I mean, they've never seen so many storms.
Yep.
And some of the Pacific Islands, the same thing is happening. So every one of these things is ways that climate change is affecting the world right now.
Yeah.
Whether you admit it's man-made or whether not, there's no doubt about it. The climate is changing.
Yep, and they have been trying to say, they being deniers, well, it stopped in the last 15 years. And
the hiatus. We talked about that last week.
We talked about this, yeah.
And they're measuring...
There is no hiatus.
They're measuring the land, not the water.
Yeah.
And there's more water on Earth than there is land.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's skewed. It's not it's not accurate.
We have a lot to do today, so we're going to have to cruise through all of these.
Well, let's go to
next
the next
one.
one.
Is pressreleasenetwork.com told us Toshiba Corporation announced the development of a new technology that uses solar energy to generate carbon compounds from CO2 and water and to deliver a viable chemical feedstock or fuel with potential use in industry. Toshiba introduced the technology at the 2014 International Conference on Artificial Photosynthesis.
Well, we've talked about this kind of stuff too. Just last week we talked about a big complex up in Canada.
Yes,
where they're doing this exact thing.
Yeah.
There's a picture. It's not Toyota's process. That particular picture uses organisms.
Yes.
it really may not
Yes.
even be artificial photosynthesis. But the feedstock there is chemicals.
Yep. And if you, interestingly enough, if you want a little teeny bit of an introduction into artificial photosynthesis, you can get it from a movie called You Can't Take It With You.
Oh, yeah? Tell us about it.
Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah. Yeah,
Jimmy
yeah.
Stewart, late 1930s. And he is the son of a very rich man, and he says his dream is to save the world by having artificial photosynthesis, and he describes this, and he talks about how there's little machines in the grass that take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and so forth.
Well, I have to look at that.
I actually have a DVD of it. We should keep going, and this one is something that I find interesting. From Clean Technica, a recent Pembina Institute, who knows what
Who the heck are
Pembina is, fact sheet discusses how wind energy is subsidizing Alberta tax ratepayers. Wind energy is subsidizing them. Why? During 2013, the average price of wind energy was 5.5 cents, lower than hydro at 9.8 cents, natural gas at 8.3 cents, coal at 7.7 cents, and peaker at 21.4 cents. Generators
That's cheap for peaking.
Is it? Generators usually prefer natural gas to wind because the profit margin is bigger and the revenues are more certain.
Yep.
Peakers, people don't understand that when they're talking about, when you talk about natural gas, some of it is baseload, some of it is peaking.
Exactly.
And
the peaking
is
power
not
is
cheap.
No, it's expensive.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, there's a quick picture of a graph up there. And the blue line in the middle is the average price of wholesale energy in the power pool.
Oh, okay.
When there's a lot of energy, the price goes down. That's the red line on the bottom.
Yeah.
When there's not a lot of wind energy, the price goes up, which
Right.
is showed by the dotted line there.
Right.
And this varies, of course, with the hour of the day as the wind velocity varies.
Right.
But it's interesting to see what's happening.
Yeah. Next, renews. U.S. lawmakers Wednesday, that is a week ago yesterday, voted to, and today is Thursday, the 11th of December. U.S. lawmakers voted to reinstate renewable energy tax credits through the end of 2014 rather than the multi-year extension the wind power sector and others had urged. The
I read that fast.
Huh?
I read that fast. I said, oh, that's good.
Yeah.
This is 3 weeks.
That's right. Well, no, it's retroactive to the
To the
beginning
first of the year.
So,
So it's 1 year.
Yeah. So the people who have put up wind turbines and so forth are going to get benefit of it, but it just means that the whole thing
They're
is
going to be
carried
fighting
forward.
about it this spring in Congress.
It's interesting to me, though, to see the vote. It was 378 to 46.
Which means a lot of Republicans voted for
A lot of Republicans voted for this. They sent the legislation to the Senate, and the Senate still has it. Okay, Friday, December 5th, PV arrays coupled with battery storage systems are becoming the new normal in Australia's wide open spaces. The number of installations continues to increase as governments and businesses begin to realize the new reality of off or edge of grid solar plus storage affordability. A key to change is increasing familiarity with the technology.
We talked about this last week.
We talk about Australia, and they're
But we talked about this specific thing in Western Australia with that one
yes, that's
town
right.
stuck way the heck over here.
Yeah.
And we also talked about the Minister of Energy,
Yes.
who was in a Gitter,
Yeah.
and he's done an about face.
Yes.
He says, this makes sense here.
Yep. What's the picture?
That's really just a picture of a house with a photo array in the front yard.
Okay.
Where that probably is an Australian house, but I didn't follow that. It came with the article.
Yeah. Okay, next, Business Week. China State Grid Corp will spend about 400 billion yuan. Yuan, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Yuan, yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce it, but I know in English how to pronounce it. It's $65 billion this year on its electricity networks as a nation. That's over $1 billion a week. That's almost
it's a very large
1.3.
country. They're starting from ground zero. Really.
And they're putting in renewable energy like mad. They've got to connect it to use it.
Yeah, that's exactly what this story is all about.
So that's China, of course, has reached a deal with the United States to curtail fossil fuels, And what we've heard about that is that it's going to cost them $1.3 billion a week for new renewable energy plants. And this is, now we're talking about over $2 billion a week.
Well, it's a command economy over there.
Yeah.
The marketplace doesn't really set things in motion. It's the government.
Yep.
And sometimes the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing.
That, I think, is
So
true.
the left hand has said, let's build a lot of turbines. And
Yes.
then the right hand said, well, we won't spend any money connecting them. So it says here about 1 every 10 of the nation's wind turbines are sitting idle because of inadequate transmission capacity, capability.
Oh, 1 out of 10. Okay.
Yeah. But they're going to obviously fix that.
Yeah.
But it's going to take
Yeah.
a while. It's going to take a lot of money.
This next one, by the way, the next one coming up is important for Brattleboro, believe it or not. That is the USDA's Rural Utility Services Energy Efficiency and Conservation Loan Program allows, that's a long name, allows rural utilities to borrow money at low rates, 30 years at 3.3%, for energy efficiency and renewable energy improvements at their facilities or properties owned by the customers it serves. Utilities may reloan the money at a slightly higher rate. So last Saturday, I went to the VCAN conference in Fairleigh.
Oh, how was that?
Oh, it was fun.
Yeah, I went last year. Was fun.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spend the $40.
Well, you know. One of the people there was a person from the USDA.
Oh, okay.
So I went over to her and I said, is Brattleboro a rural community? She said, Windham County, every single town in Windham County is a rural town. In fact, the whole state of Vermont, with the exception of certain specific communities,
Like Burlington.
Those are rural.
Rural.
So,
Urban.
you know, Barrie and Montpelier and Springfield and Bennington and you name it, you know, those are all considered rural, and anything that happens in Brattleboro is possibly eligible for this.
So I think what you're saying is that Green Mountain Power can borrow the money from this
Right.
Rural Utilities Energy
Right.
Efficient and Conservation Loan Program.
Right.
And then lend it to you or to me.
Exactly.
To put up solar or wind turbine
or put insulation in the house.
or insulation. Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is very helpful.
Yeah, it's a very helpful thing. Okay, next.
This particular article, by the way, has a lot of stuff in it if you want to look.
Okay. Saturday, December 6th, from Breaking Energy, conventional natural gas is still a fossil fuel with significant carbon emissions that need to be contained. However, there is a renewable natural gas which can be blended into the natural gas supply. There is a wide variety of technologies and feedstocks that can be used to produce renewable natural gas at competitive costs.
Well, we got it right here in Vermont as cow power.
Yeah, we do.
But
And-
it also includes biomass and...
Well, actually, if you think about it, you can take wind power, which is intermittent, solar,
Yeah.
which is intermittent,
Use it.
either one to produce hydrogen,
Yep.
which you can blend with your natural gas, or if you have hydrogen, you can use the energy from solar or wind to combine with carbon dioxide that you capture coming out of your gas burning power plant and recombine that to make methane, which is the fuel that you burn in your gas burning power plant. So you can make the fuel that you burn in your gas burning power plant out of the emissions from your gas burning power plant. It's a really beautiful system.
Well, what's interesting here, and I'll go to the left a little bit here, because of fracking,
Yeah.
there's right now a surplus of natural gas in
Yes.
certain parts of America.
Yes.
And the gas companies are going nuts trying to build transmission lines
Yes.
to get that gas to the customers.
Yes.
Now, that's one part of it. The other part of it is, and we've discussed this, a lot of these fracking fields are running out of gas quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. So inside of a few more years, there's not going to be a surplus of gas, but there's going to be a surplus of transmission lines or
Yes.
pipes.
Which means that you can
Which
make
means you can make
lots and lots of
artificial natural gas, if you will,
gas and pipe it all over the
and
place.
pipe it all over the place. So it may not be such a bad thing that they're
To
building
make
these
the
pipelines.
lines. Yeah. Although I've noticed that Exxon is saying that they are convinced that the fracking is going to keep us going forever and ever and ever or
Are they really convinced, or they're
not.
just saying that?
I think they're saying it, but I don't think it's really forever, forever, forever. It's really for the foreseeable future.
Well, here's the
But
takeaway from that one.
Shell has already shut down its. Yeah, go ahead.
Methane can be produced in substantial quantities from food waste,
Yes.
farms,
Yes.
sewage and landfills.
Yes.
Renewable methane can be blended in unlimited ratios with fossil natural gas and is undetectable to end users.
How do you like that?
You don't know what you're buying.
That's right.
As long as it works, you're happy.
You're going to have some farmer out there craftily sneaking artificial natural gas into your natural gas supply.
And what it finishes up saying is there are wide varieties of technologies and feedstocks that can be used to produce renewable natural gas as competitive cost.
Right.
Right
And
now.
some of these were used.
And there's more of them people are working on
Yeah.
right now.
Some of them were used by the Germans during the Second World War to make
Yeah, absolutely.
aviation fuel. One of the things that you can use that can produce a drop-in replacement for natural gas is biomass that is heated to produce methane, carbon monoxide, which can be made into methane or
Yep.
into methanol.
Or-
And when you do that, you can actually produce biochar too,
Yeah.
which can be used as a soil amendment. There's a huge industry just waiting to be started here.
It will
And
happen.
It is starting, actually.
It will. Yeah, it is starting already.
Yeah. Should we go on?
I think we
Okie
should.
doke. From Trucking Info, we get this. Volvo Trucks North America New River Valley Assembly Plant in Dublin, Virginia is now carbon neutral thanks to a switch to renewable fuels to produce power. The assembly plant uses landfill gas to generate electric power and replaces fossil fuels that produce over 40,000 tons of carbon dioxide last year. And I think it's really funny to think in terms of a truck plant that is 100% renewably fueled.
Well, in that article, they had a addendum there to correct the entire plant is not carbon neutral. Only the electricity supplying the plant
Yes,
is.
yes.
But still, it's a step in the right direction.
It is,
You can't
yeah.
take it from them.
Okay.
Somebody's doing something right.
Yep. And there is a truck.
Yeah, it is. It's a Volvo truck.
From Business Week, we have this one, which is Elon Musk's so-called gigafactory may soon become an existential threat to the 100-year-old utility business model. The facility will also churn out stationary battery packs that can be paired to rooftop solar plants to store power. Already, a second company led by Musk, Solar City Corporation, is packaging solar panels and batteries together.
This is one of those articles that's got a lot of meat to it.
Yeah.
This is something you should look up.
Yeah.
There's Musk in the middle, and he's grinning like a Cheshire cat there.
He's always grinning in every
Why
picture I
Elon
see.
Musk's batteries scare the hell out of the electric company.
Yes, right.
And basically, he is threatening their 100-year-old model, which is obsolete now anyhow.
Yeah.
And he's providing alternatives to grid power.
Yep.
Basically.
And if you want to think about the model of the grid, just look at movies that were made prior to the First World War and think that is the time that the technology came from.
Oh yeah, definitely.
You know?
Thomas Edison.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Tesla developed Niagara Falls. Edison developed the whole grid in the New York, Philadelphia,
Yeah, we
Boston
were
areas.
fighting the fight between AC and DC.
Oh yeah,
And it was still
Edison
going on
lost.
actually when I was a kid. The Loop area of Chicago. I lived for a while near Chicago, and the Loop. If you had anything going in the Loop area,
It was DC.
It was DC.
Well, there was parts of New York City when I was young too.
Really?
That were DC.
I didn't
the
know that.
old Edison plants were running DC.
Wow. Yeah. One of these days.
There was just the rudiments left,
Yep.
you know. But yeah,
One of these days, I'll tell you about my grandfather who had the first electric power and the first telephone in the community that he was in, and for 17 years he had the only
you've talked about
private
it.
telephone in
yeah,
town.
Yeah.
Okay, the following day, which is this is Sunday, the 7th of December, from Press Herald. I have no idea where that is.
But somewhere in
I
Maine.
think it's in Maine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Energy coming out of the woodwork. This is an opinion piece. Biomass power plants pay taxes and provide jobs all across Maine. So the folk in Maine should understand EPA analysis that biomass, quote, is likely to have a minimum or no net effect atmospheric contributions of biogenic CO2 emissions, or even reduce such it may even reduce such impacts when
Explain that
compared
a little
with
bit more.
alternative fate of disposal. Well, when you dispose of something,
Yeah.
let's just say that you dispose of a potato.
It costs you something.
It costs you something, but the potato has to decompose.
Yeah.
A lot of things, when they decompose, particularly when they're decomposing in the absence of oxygen,
Yeah.
you're going to get methane out of that.
Yep.
Methane is 20 times to 40 times as powerful as a global warming gas as carbon dioxide.
And carbon dioxide, that's right.
That's why it's so important to trap landfill gas and
Yep.
burn it. You're better off burning it, even if you don't get any benefit out of burning it, than you are letting it escape into the atmosphere. Now, the balance of forest biomass is really complicated. If a tree falls and it rots by being completely decomposed by mushrooms, you're going to get the content of that tree, the carbon content, turned into carbon dioxide, which is the same result you get if you burn it.
Yeah.
If, on the other hand, it is eaten up by termites, a large part of that is going to be methane. Because
Or if it falls into a swamp.
if it falls into a swamp, it might stay there and decompose.
But it'll decompose into methane.
Very slowly, yeah, it could decompose into methane, yeah. So basically, and in addition to that, there's another thing too, and that is when you burn biomass, if you burn biomass, wood for here,
Yep.
you don't have to burn it completely.
Correct.
And if you don't burn it completely, then you may have biochar left,
Yep.
which you can use as
can
a
sell
soil
it.
amendment. Now that is sequestering carbon.
Absolutely.
But it's also producing fertility in the soil that does not any longer require a lot of
Chemical
fertilizer.
Yep.
This is a big win, and I think it's one of the things that actually the UN addressing climate change spent a lot of time looking at biochar and is considering this to be a big percentage, and by big I mean maybe 10 or 15% of the work that we have to do in reducing CO2 emissions is using biochar.
Well, a lot of these ways of doing things are old, been around
Yeah.
a long time,
Well,
but they haven't been adopted because the big investors weren't interested in this type of
if
thing.
you can't make money, they're not interested.
Bingo.
And biochar is something that a small operation can make money with, but it can't be patented. They want to get,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I've
They're looking for
heard more than
monopolies.
one, yeah, I've heard more than one businessman say, all I want is an unfair advantage.
That was
And a
Hank
patent.
Greenberg.
Yeah.
It was.
A patent gives you an unfair advantage.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
So they want something they can
Interesting about this article here, they didn't mention it in the article, but Maine generates a lot of its power with wood.
With wood.
Been doing it for a long, long,
Long
time.
time.
And the reason for that is Maine's got plenty of wood and no coal.
Yeah.
And to bring it in from Boston as natural gas, to bring it in from Boston as oil, is more expensive than to chop down our own trees. And
Let them be replaced by
for
new
100
trees.
years, Maine has been burning wood.
And they still have big forests.
And they still, yeah. So this is really just saying, you know, well, we have an advantage here. Let's take it.
That's
let's
right.
take advantage of our advantage.
They also have a governor who says that climate change doesn't exist.
Well, you are right. So what can I tell you?
What can I say? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. From the Energy Collective, we have this. While new technologies as batteries, pumped hydro, and flywheels have their merits, none is able to offer seasonal deep storage of the terawatt scale. Power to gas is an elegant innovation that simply takes, and we're talking about the same thing that we've just been talking about, hydrogen and methane being injected into the natural gas pipelines.
And making gas,
Here is
making power
yet
out of it.
another article. They're actually doing this
Yep.
in places in the world. They have been doing it for a long time. Innovative technology, I don't know about that. This has been around
It's
for
been
100
around for a
years.
long, long time.
100 years.
Absolutely.
Over 100 years. Sabatier,
I've got a pretty good,
2000,
pretty good picture here how it
1913.
works. Let's go by it slowly.
Okay, slowly.
They're starting out with renewables.
Yeah,
It doesn't have to be, but in this particular article, they're talking about
Yep.
renewables. They're turning the renewables into power,
yep,
basically.
yep,
And in some cases, they're in the intermediate process is gas.
yep,
They're storing the gas.
yep,
They're pumping the gas. Some cases they're running it, turn it right back into power.
Yep.
But that's what this is all about. It's using the power we got, no matter how we got it. In this particular case, it's renewables
yep,
to make fuel.
yep.
And how many times have we talked about
Well,
similar
we've
things?
talked about it many, many times, but it's something that is in the news because people are making headway with it. It's, as I was saying, it's been around since 1913 when Paul Sabatier invented his process for taking carbon dioxide and water, carbon dioxide and hydrogen, and turning them into methane. He got a Nobel Prize for that.
Did he really?
Yeah. But
it's just sat on a shelf.
it sat on the shelf because it was so much cheaper to pump,
Yeah.
basically free oil out of the ground. Well, it isn't free anymore.
And a takeaway from this article, which I already mentioned, chemical conversion of electricity to gas allows the existing natural gas pipeline infrastructure to be leveraged for massive volume long-term distributed storage
Right.
that is cost competitive with other storage technologies.
Yes.
There's
Yeah.
a lot of people, and I've
Yep.
said this before, working on new
Yep.
ideas, old
Right.
ideas,
Right.
old new ideas,
Right.
new old ideas, and some of them are going to hit pay dirt.
Yeah. Well, I think
Some of them have already.
Yeah, some of them have already. Okie doke. Clean Technica gave us this one. Things are really cooking up in Congress over the war on wind energy's production tax credit. In the latest twist, this I kind of enjoy, a coalition of U.S. governors has waded into the fray with a letter to House leadership. This is a little bit late, I think, because the House had already voted on it when this appeared, citing a drop, yes, a drop, in electric prices over the past 5 years in states that have been producing more wind energy.
Well, you might think that's a good thing,
Oh, really?
but the power companies don't.
The power companies don't. Yes, I think the customers might think it's a good thing too, but some power companies think it's a good thing.
Well, there's a picture up there of good old USA,
Yep.
and there's two things we can see on that map. The blue, the color is blue. The darker the blue, the more renewable energy, particularly wind,
Yeah.
exists in that state.
Yep.
And you can see Texas is leading, California
Texas
is
leaning,
second.
California's leaning.
You get out into the deep south, there's none of it.
Yeah. Well,
It's politics.
it's politics.
If you look at all the little red dots, they are jobs. They are
Oh yes.
jobs connected to wind energy some way or another. Manufacturing jobs.
Yes.
They're not putting up wind turbines. They're making wind turbines.
Yes.
Or things related to wind turbines. And it's interesting because so many of them are in the southeast.
Yes.
So they're getting the jobs, but they're not putting up the wind energy.
Yeah.
They will.
One of the things that I find interesting about this is you look at Alabama, it's white. You look at Nebraska, it's dark blue. And
Yeah.
there is a transmission line running from Nebraska to Alabama, and they're supplying 150 megawatts of wind power to Alabama on a power purchase agreement.
And from Utah to California.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see how this is developing.
And it's, yeah, I mean, who would have predicted?
Well, of course, one thing about wind power is there isn't a lot of it in the southeast. That's,
No, there isn't, but there's plenty of it in the plains.
yeah.
There's
But
really
it's
a
nice
lot of
to
it.
know that they're spreading the money around because the jobs of manufacturing are in the southeast. Okay, Monday, December 8th, we come up with this from the Energy Collective. 2014 is, and we've already hit this one, but we're saying it again. 2014 is currently on track to be the hottest year on record, according to new reports from both the World Meteorological Organization and the UK's Met Office Wednesday. Similarly, NOAA reported 2 weeks ago that 2014 is all but certain to be the hottest year on record. The last time a record was set was 2010. The time before that was 2005, and although I didn't put it down in my blog, the time before that was 1998.
Well, there's an interesting graph there.
Yeah.
And I referenced that earlier in this conversation.
Yes, you did.
And if you can see, you have to really read into that graph. But all of those red areas are in the 21st century.
Right.
And all of those blue areas go way back to 1850.
And what they've done is they've organized that graph so that the hottest years are on the left.
Bingo.
And the coolest are on the right. And you can see that the hottest years are also the most recent.
The most recent. You can definitely see a trend going from, well, it's backwards on that map, on that graph. I
would have done the
it
graph the other way, yeah.
But you can definitely see it was where it's blue and green and yellow is a long time ago.
Yeah.
And where it's red, it's hot and it's relatively recently.
And I think it becomes clear again, because I think that people should kind of have this registered in their minds. The people who are claiming that we're in a hiatus, there's a word for where they are. I'm not going to say it.
Well, we talked about it last year, and it's just that they're measuring it wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Clean Technica gave us this report. The European Environment Agency published a report recently stating that air pollution cost the European Union up to $235 billion a year for the year 2012. Most of this air pollution is generated by coal-fired power plants. Now, parenthetically, it says in the U.S. the cost of coal-based pollution was estimated to be $500 billion in 2012. But they're going beyond air pollution for that. They're going to other kinds of pollution, such as
yeah, they are. The ash, get rid of the ash and that kind
sort
of stuff.
of thing. This is a very expensive. This is a very expensive fuel to use, but the expense is on the victims rather than
bingo. That's just what I was going to say. You don't notice it because it doesn't show up in someone's bottom line.
Yeah, but it does show up.
But somebody's getting sick.
Yeah, it does show up in the streams of Vermont with mercury.
Well, you're talking about the streams, and this particular article references human health, and I'll read a sentence or two out of it. Air pollution impacts human health, resulting in extra health care costs. Bingo.
Yeah.
You don't notice that because you're paying it, he's paying it, they're paying it, but the companies aren't paying it.
Yeah.
Lost productivity. Well, that's cost to the companies. You
Some
take sick
companies.
days. Yeah.
But not necessarily the companies that are making the coal.
Not exactly at all. No, fewer work days. Other impacts, and we don't even think about this. Reduced crop yields.
Yep.
Building damage. Well, yeah, there's acid rain affecting the granite buildings. I mean, that's a big problem in places like New York City.
Yep. Any building that's got marble in it is
exactly. Yeah. And the two main pollutants that come from coal are particulate matter, which is basically ash suspended in the air, okay, and ground level ozone. We don't think about that even.
Not most of us.
But it's ozone.
Yeah.
So there are hidden costs affecting virtually everybody that we don't hear about when we talk about air pollution.
Right.
We know they're there, but we don't really concentrate.
Well, we should be thinking about this, and it would be reasonable to have the companies that are putting those pollutants into the air pay the costs that they're making other people pick up. And if they do, they're going to go out of business. That would be
equitable.
Yeah, it would be equitable.
But it's going to be an awful hard thing to get it done.
Yeah.
Carbon tax.
Carbon tax, everybody. Carbon tax.
You took the words right out of my mind there. I was just about to say carbon tax.
Yeah.
That might be the answer.
Yeah.
And the only downside with carbon tax is as soon as they put something in there, somebody's going to start making derivatives out of it. It's going to become a gambling casino.
Yes. Well, life is. We have to deal with human beings, I guess, somehow.
This article talks about an estimated 400,000 premature deaths in European cities in 2011.
How many?
400,000.
400,000 people died
throughout
early
Europe, in cities
in Europe,
alone.
in cities in 1 year
Yeah.
because of coal.
Well, they call it air pollution.
Air
but air pollution
okay.
is very
well,
closely
it's going to
linked
be
to coal.
air pollution, and it's going to be from coal and from oil.
And,
basically.
yeah, automobiles, yep.
Okay. The next one is from Deadline News. Scary sounding title of a publication. November was a big month for Scottish wind power. According to the new figures, Scottish wind turbines produced enough electrical power to electricity to power 2.6 million homes for the month, equivalent to 170% of all Scottish households. While 11 days in November saw wind power generate enough electricity to supply every home in the country. Well, all right, so 11 days had a lot, were over 100, and the rest of the month was under 100, but the over 100 brought the average up.
We've been talking about Scotland and wind, and they're leading the world there. You know? They're doing a good job, and one of the things we did see, we saw a graph of this exact report.
Yep.
We saw one day they got to 107% of their electricity, and about 4 days later they were down to about 10%. So well, wind does vary.
It's the nature of wind power, which is why you've got to have other
storage.
Power sources.
But there's more and more ideas coming around on that too.
Okay, the next item is from the National Legal and Policy Center. This is Tuesday, December 9th. Ceres, a nonprofit promoting investor support for efforts on climate change, has sent a letter endorsed by 223 companies to President Obama in support of the EPA's controversial proposed standard for existing power plants to limit carbon dioxide emissions. Combined assets of the companies is $10 trillion.
Yeah.
And by the way, the list of companies is amazing. The companies that say that EPA proposed standard doesn't go far enough, or who at least are supporting it, includes General Motors. It includes,
well, I got a whole bunch of them here.
Read them off.
Adidas, IKEA, Kellogg, Levi Strauss, Mars, Nestle, Nike, Starbucks, Symantec, as well as numerous green-minded and renewable energy businesses.
These are big businesses.
These are all large companies.
They're all large companies. You know, if I go in there and say I've got a 3-person little hole-in-the-wall consultancy, they're going to say, you can join, but we're not going to claim that you're a big company.
Well, this is a good takeaway from this article, and it's from this series letter.
Yeah.
We know that tackling climate change is one of America's greatest economic opportunities of the 21st century.
Yeah.
And we applaud the EPA for taking steps to help the country seize that opportunity. Now, and it is a big opportunity.
That is really important. What's happening here, and the reason why we've got two sides against each other, is because we've got a group of organizations which are making money on the status quo, which is old-fashioned, obsolete. And then we have a new group coming in who are going into competition with them, and that competition is unfair inherently because they're using new technology. Yep. It's not because they've got subsidies, and in fact we saw today, and it won't be part of this news broadcast, but between them, the loan guarantees for fossil fuels and nuclear from the EPA are 5 times as great. 5 times? Yes, 5 times as great as the subsidies for all renewables combined. This is for nuclear and fossil fuels. Mm-hmm. And that, you know, this is from the DOE. The material is there. If you want to see about it, it'll be in this broadcast next week. And it's at the blog today. But this is the opportunity that's there is the opportunity to step in on the side of new technology that is out-competing old technology.
Well, it's happening.
It is.
Whether you choose to grab onto it or not, it is happening.
Yeah.
I mean,
Exxon is not.
A generation
is
or
not.
two from now, the transmission line network that we know isn't going to exist anymore. There still will be transmission lines.
It'll be different.
But it's going to be different.
Yeah, it'll be different. Okay, the next one is from Electric Co-op Today. Revenues from renewables for electric power generators jumped by 49% to $9.8 billion from 2007 to 2012, while revenues from fossil fuels sector fell by 6.7%, according to the Census Bureau.
Yep.
But wind, hydro, geothermal, biomass, and solar accounted for combined only 8.2% of all industry, that is, power industry revenues in 2012.
Well, we've been talking about this stuff every week.
Every
really.
week.
Something like this is happening in renewables, and it's good news.
Yes.
But this article mentions it's a drop in the bucket.
But the thing is, and this is, it tells you why this is such a matter of antagonism. If you consider that this industry, the power industries, the fossil fuel industry, has had a 6.7% decline over a 5-year period, you realize that even though the rest of the country was coming out of a recession, they have not. They're still in that recession, and they are facing that recession for the entire foreseeable future. They are in a recession I think they will never get out of.
I wouldn't bet against it.
Next, from Access North Georgia, the North Georgia Public Service Commission has warned for at least 2 years that Southern Company subsidiary Georgia Power is relying on outdated project schedule for 2 new reactors at Plant Vogtle. I don't know how to pronounce that.
I don't either.
In eastern Georgia, that contains almost no detail after December 2015, even though construction will continue for 7 more years. They're not
playing
happy about
games
this.
or what?
I don't know. I can't make sense of this. The nuclear industry is so careful to make sure that all the T's are crossed and all the I's are dotted, and they're so this kind of thing just happens. This is the story of the nuclear industry. If you look at Hinkley C, they have 2 reactors going in. The original
This is
projected
the British
cost. This is it's in England. The original projected cost was something like $23 billion for 2 reactors, and now those projected costs have been
$23 billion
for 2 reactors.
Okay. And now what are they?
$40 billion.
So they doubled.
Well, almost, yeah. And that's for 2 reactors.
And they haven't even broken ground yet.
No, and the reactors are huge. I mean, those reactors each are about. Each of those reactors is about 2.5 times the size of Vermont Yankee.
Okay.
But even so, it's still.
So we're talking 5 Yankees.
5 Yankees for $40 billion.
Yep.
Would you pay $8 billion to put up from Vermont Yankee?
No,
going
I
to have
wouldn't.
to. Yeah, right. You're going to have to go into competition with wind and solar.
Yeah.
And I mean the prices of those things are going down. And when you're running, you're going to be buying fuel and doing refueling and dealing with the Nuclear Regulatory Commission and spending money left and right and hopefully making money if that's what you're doing. But you're going to have to be competing against somebody who's got no marginal costs, because the sunshine comes whether you want it or not. Mm-hmm. So I don't see how this industry can have a future.
We've talked about this. Once you've paid off the loan, which is significant, okay? Once you've paid off the cost of construction and a loan.
In 5 to 15 years.
This is free.
Yes, that's right. Okay. CNN tells us this. This is Tuesday, December 9th still. Right now, only a couple stations in Oklahoma and Texas are selling $2 gas. $2 gas.
Wow.
But the price of both oil and wholesale gas declined again on Monday. Oil is already at a 5-year low, less than $65 a barrel, and analysts think it could bottom out at $35 next year. Next year's average, I find it hard to believe.
That would have significant effects on the world's economy.
Yeah, and the average could be as low as $53.
And I don't know if they'd be good effects or bad effects.
Some of both, I suspect.
Yeah.
I think most of them would be bad. This is a projection from Morgan Stanley.
I guess there's some local gas that's selling for less than $3.
I don't know.
We don't have any $2 gas.
I haven't.
I just bought diesel fuel yesterday
I
at
think
$3.29.
Oh wow! I think I have put on driving cars about 40 miles in the last 3 years.
Well, I watched diesel fuel, which is significantly more expensive
Yeah.
than gas in this country, which is interesting because it's cheaper to produce.
Yeah, I could never figure
And in
that.
Europe, it's cheaper, but
Yeah.
it's
Well, when I was a kid, it was cheaper to buy diesel than
yeah, it was.
gasoline.
Yeah, right.
It's cheaper to store, and there's a lot of things. Okay.
Well, here it says why lower oil prices are a bad thing.
Yep.
Investors are also bailing out of oil,
Yeah.
according to the chief oil analyst for the Oil Price Information Service
Yeah.
and GasBuddy.com. Sounds like an industry group,
Yes.
but they're further pushing down prices.
Yeah.
We've had a fear premium on oil in most of this century as people worried about disruptions and political upheaval. Now we have a fear discount. The investors and speculators have soured on all commodities, in particular on oil.
Yeah.
So the investors aren't coming.
Yes.
That's the bad news out of this low price of oil.
Well, that's one.
That's the free market.
We have 4 more items.
We'll do it.
We'll do it.
We'll do it.
Yesterday, Wednesday, December 10th, Clean Technica gave us this story. Proponents of carbon capture and storage say that, which is called CCS, say it is the only feasible way to mitigate climate change because coal and natural gas are cheap. A study now revealed about how much CCS will cost. It would be $17.6 trillion for the initial investment, and CCS plants will only produce, will use 10 to 40% of the energy that they produce because of the.
I'm not sure I agree that carbon capture and storage is the solution.
I don't think it's a solution at all.
I think what we've already talking about, carbon capture and recycling.
It's called carbon capture and use.
Yeah.
You can capture that carbon dioxide and make it into plastic if you want.
Oh,
You can
absolutely.
make polypropylene out of that if you want.
If you start out with methane,
Yeah.
you can make almost any plastic known.
Almost any hydrocarbon known if you
Yeah,
know how to
really,
do it.
really, absolutely.
I had an acquaintance once who had a doctorate in organic chemistry. He said if you've got a carbon atom in a molecule, you can go to any other molecule that has a carbon atom. You just have to know how to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. From RTCC, oil prices have plummeted in recent months from $115 a barrel in June to less than $70. I think we already
We
knew
were
that.
just talking about that one.
The dramatic shift could increase greenhouse gas emissions in the short term as consumers take advantage of cheap fuel, but it also gives policyholders a golden opportunity to scrap fossil fuel subsidies and bring in carbon pricing or carbon
Well, we
tax.
mentioned that already in
Yeah.
this talk.
Yeah.
It's an idea whose time has come.
Yeah.
It's a way of making the polluters pay for the pollution.
Yes, absolutely.
And I
Okay.
think most people are going to agree that's fair.
It's fair. Next item from Clean Technica. The U.S. installed 1,354 megawatts of solar PV in the third quarter of 2014, up 41% over the same period last year. The country's cumulative solar PV capacity is now 16.1 gigawatts. The U.S. residential segment exceeded 300 megawatts for the first time for the quarter, with more than half coming online without any state incentives to help it along.
Mm-hmm. If you look at that graph, you see this graphically.
Right.
The black line on the right shows almost exponential growth,
Yes.
and that's renewables.
Yes.
And at the top, the blue line on the top that's flattening out
Yes.
is fossil fuel.
Well, hallelujah. So that's an interesting one.
And looks like the end of 2013 or early 2014, those graphs crossed.
Yes.
Where are they going to go from here? Your guess is as good as mine, but
as
it
far
looks
as
like
I
they're
know,
going to continue.
Yeah, last time I looked, we had no new power additions from coal this year. Now we're in December, and we haven't had a single coal burning plant increased in size or come online all year.
And that's not going to happen.
And it's possible that maybe an odd one here and there will happen, but I think that the age of coal is coming to an end, and the same thing is true of other fossil fuels.
We've got another graph up here about generating capacity by fuel type.
Yep.
Okay, and the dark black is solar, dark blue is solar, next one's natural gas, the light blue is coal,
Which is
and then above that is wind, and on top of wind is other. And we can see 2012, 2013, and the first half of 2014, the changes.
Yep.
And natural gas is a big part of this equation right now.
Yes, it is.
But that's going to fade.
Yep. Well, we can't increase, for example, in New England, we can't increase natural gas use until we have more pipelines. Our pipelines are already overworked.
They're clogged.
Yeah.
And
And
they're not getting far in building new ones either.
Yeah, they're not.
There's a lot of local opposition.
There's a lot of not
throughout
just local,
New England.
not just local. I think there's national opposition.
Well, we're talking about New England, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I go down to Greenfield once a week, and there's signs all over the place. No pipeline.
Yeah. Well, they're going to be more affected by it than people in Brattleboro would be because the pipeline isn't scheduled to go
Pipeline's
through.
going
here.
right through Greenfield.
Yeah.
The east-west pipeline.
Although there may be a link to the pipeline that would come to Brattleboro.
Well, let's face it. Nobody's talking about that, but certainly they're thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. We have one last item here, and that is from Market Wired. And that is Mary Powell, President and CEO of Green Mountain Power, Vermont's largest utility, was just named the Power Gen 2014 Woman of the Year.
And there she is.
This sounds Power Gen 2014 Woman of the Year. Sounds like
Well, she is leading a very progressive company
Yeah.
in energy.
Yeah.
Everybody in America is aware of green power. Everybody in the power industry
Yeah.
is aware of Green Mountain Power.
yeah.
Some of them are fighting it, some of them are joining it, but
Yep.
they're all aware of what's going on.
Well, this is interesting because here we've got a person who is saying, my job as president and CEO is to come up with a new business paradigm, a new business plan.
Yep.
So we can continue to prosper
Yep.
in an era when we're going to be transitioning
Absolutely.
from one type of power source to another.
And they're doing a lot of innovative thinking.
Boy, are they ever. I mean, if you think about it, I think everybody who is in an area that's served by BCTV, but 3/4 of the people in Vermont are in areas that are served by Green Mountain Power.
Yeah.
And Green Mountain Power has combined forces with NeighborWorks of Western Vermont to make
Okay.
it possible for people to get solar power at affordable prices. And what you do is you borrow the money to put it in, if you're going to finance it.
Yeah.
You borrow the money from NeighborWorks of Western Vermont, or through NeighborWorks of Western
Okay.
Vermont, and they turn the bill over to Green Mountain Power, which bills you.
So basically, your cost of power during the time that this is in effect doesn't change.
The cost of power does not change,
So you're paying what you used to pay.
It may go down. Even if you finance at 100%,
It may
the
even
cost
go
of
down.
power may go down.
Okay.
Because-
And after so many years, you own us outright.
That's right. And that means that your power bill goes down to a connect fee. Now, that connect fee is really important because ultimately, Green Mountain Power is going to be making money not by selling power, but by moving power.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
By moving the power, by providing the means of transmitting that power
Right.
locally, getting
And
it to your house.
What that means is if I decide that I'm going to have a battery in my basement and make it available to Green Mountain Power, and my neighbor has a set of PVs, the neighbor will be selling power that's unneeded to Green Mountain Power, which will be using it to power my battery, which will be buying it from my battery when they had need it on the grid. This is a complicated thing.
Yeah, but we talked about some
Yeah.
guy with an electric car wasn't even using it as a car.
Yeah.
And he was making money every month.
Yeah. Tom, we are at the end of our show.
Well, we got a few more minutes, so
No, we only have about 20
minute and
seconds.
20 seconds.
No, because we started before the
okay.
before the thing.
Well,
so I think we're going to have to
done
say
it.
good night.
We've done it then.
Good day, good whatever it is when people are watching. We hope you will join us next week, and we hope you enjoy this show. I am George Harvey.
And I am Tom Finnell.
And
I look at this, I'm never sure which arm is going up.
It doesn't make any sense, does it? It's the nature.
For those who wonder why we're puzzled, it's not the same as looking in a mirror.
It's the exact opposite.
We're looking at monitors here,
Yeah.
which are looking at us as if we were looking at it, not in a mirror. And it's
little
interesting.
perplexing.
It's an interesting
Yes,
thing.
Okay. So, good night, good day.
Good night, good
Good
day.
whatever.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
We spin and we toil, we work all day, sowing and reaping, we store goods away, so we can be dressed well on the day that we die.